what was your experience with the OCI interviews in Lauder?
Sure. Yeah. So the screening interview is, as you know, it's 20 minutes, which sounds like a long time to have a conversation with someone you don't know, but in my experience, they all went by really quickly. Yeah, it's a conversation with, most of mine were with just one attorney, but sometimes they would have a partner and an associate. They ask you questions about your resume. You want to be ready to just speak for a few minutes with your elevator pitch, which I'm sure you will by then have practiced. For me, the most important thing that I wanted to get across was enthusiasm, because the more you do them and the more the partners do them, they can be a little repetitive. So showing enthusiasm, I think, is the goal in a screener interview.
Yeah, just to add in I often pride myself on trying to lend the firm side hiring perspective on a 20-minute interview. I think for an interviewer, it's also more nerve-wracking and artificial and awkward than you might necessarily think. So to Kelsey's point about an elevator pitch, the easier that you can make it on an interviewer who's seeing like 20 bright, promising students over the course of an entire day, really taking the lead, driving the interview, having sort of a narrative ready with things is an important component of what an on-campus interview is. Because contrary to what you guys as students who are seeking jobs might think, it's not a weeding out process so much as someone is looking to build a team from its most junior members. So people are looking for you to do well and succeed. And the better prepared you are to sort of speak like a first-year associate, be confidence-inspiring, take charge of the conversation, that's the type of thing that people are really looking for in that short, artificial 20 minutes that they're spending with you.
So for me, what was most useful in preparing for interviews was being entirely comfortable top to bottom with my resume. You don't really ever know what an interviewer is going to find interesting on your resume. So it could be one of your interests, a club you were in college. For me, I went straight through, but even still, some of those memories and the experiences associated with those activities on my resume were a little bit fuzzy. So taking a couple hours or a day before the whole process gets started and being ready and prepared to talk about anything on your resume, I think would serve well in the interview.
I think from the firm side perspective, the notion of a resume isn't a roster of your accomplishments. At the interview stage, it's almost an invitation to a conversation. So I think Kelsey is absolutely right that everything on your resume is fair game, but you want to be conscious of the fact that you want to be dexterous with that information, able to interweave aspects of your resume into essentially any question that an interviewer might ask. One of the best tips that I like to share is swap your resume with somebody else or even a couple people in advance, because your resume is so close to you that you sometimes don't realize how interesting something on your resume might be to somebody else. Mm-hmm. And talking about like brushing up and alluding back to the whole notion of invitation to a conversation, like you might want to go back and revisit things like your senior thesis or a project that you previously worked on, so that you can have something snappy and ready to talk about, in a way that inspires confidence, is concise, and really showcases what you were able to do and accomplish and learn in a short amount of time in that interview context. There's nothing worse during a 20-minute interview than having to watch some poor kid ask them about their senior thesis, and for them to just say, "Oh, it was a long time ago. I actually forgot."
Yeah, I had an interview before the on-campus interview started at a firm, and somebody asked me about a club on my resume, and that happened to me. And I was thankful that it happened before, and it was kind of like a practice interview. But yeah, you want to be able to talk and show that you're passionate about what's on your resume so that you come to life.
I'd feel remiss if we didn't touch upon, at least briefly, this notion of behavioral interviewing. It's a little bit of a trend that is happening across all industries when it comes to interviewing. And essentially, from our perspective as decision makers, it is essentially a story-rich question as opposed to an abstract question. And so it is affording an interviewer the opportunity to open up the floodgates for a student to craft a narrative. We'd spoken a little bit before about how important it is to take the wheel during an interview, to be concise and dexterous with the information on one's resume. So a behavioral interview is not a trap designed to mess you up. It is more this notion of you being able to point to times in your life when you exhibited analytical abilities or overcame a challenge. Truth be told, even the notion of tell me about yourself is an open-ended behavioral interview question, because it goes to what you think is important about yourself to share. I don't think you should be fearful of them. They're just another way to ask a question, but you should be prepared, however, to be able to interweave real anecdotes from both your resume, in particular your 1L summer experience, or any other legal experience or leadership experience that you've had, because it's not just about the title or the job you had or this prestigious externship that you had. What people really want to focus on is show me versus tell me the notion of the skills that you have. And I think a behavioral interview question is designed to do exactly that. I think there's a real misconception during the on-campus interview stage of what we are trying to do. What is funny is that we're not trying to weed people out. I mentioned before, we're looking for people to join our team as the most junior member and sort of an apprentice. So what stands out in terms of answers to questions during the interview process, and essentially what we're trying to elicit, is this notion of a get it factor. Do you understand what we do? Do you have commercial intelligence? Have you invested a little bit of legwork into discovering what the goods and services are that a particular law firm provides? That's not to say that you need to know every case or every deal or have to have any substantive mastery of what's going on, but there should be some indication from a student, even in the course of a 20-minute interview, that this person is confidence inspiring, that they can articulate a complex idea, something else that they've learned in a previous situation or a previous job, in a way that makes it simple and crisp and clear, because ultimately that's what a junior associate is going to have to do.
When I was doing interviews the summer before OCI started, one thing that I did to prepare and differentiate between firms was to reach out to associates at those firms. And Penn has a database of all of its graduates who are at specific firms. All of the associates I spoke to were nice, and you can ask questions about things that are interesting to you, whether that's culture of the firm, specific groups, types of work, whether the firm's international or not so much. And I found that during the screening interviews, those were the types of questions that came most natural, was to sort of ask the interviewer to say, oh, I spoke with so-and-so at the firm over the summer. They mentioned X aspect of whatever. It's a good way to show that you're actually interested in the firm and that you've done research to sort of distinguish between and differentiate between firms. And every time I asked that question, the interviewer had something to add on to what the associate had already told me. So it was a good back and forth that was engaging, I think, for me and the interviewer.
I think from the perspective of a firm and someone who's making hiring decisions, questions that show that you have given some things a little bit of thought done some introspection, essentially paired the abstract of why you want this job with giving yourself a head start as to here are more reasons I want this job, and I invested the time and the energy in narrowing down why it is that I want this particular position, this particular summer associate program, these qualities in terms of practice group exploration opportunities. It is always easy to show commercial intelligence as opposed to just allude to it in the abstract. I think too many times students feel as though they need to be conversant in HR speak about the qualities or adjectives that they're parroting from things that they've heard as far as analytical abilities or drive or motivation. Essentially what an interviewer is looking for is, well, then show me versus tell me how it is that you have done that specifically with respect to this firm. And so when questions are personalized, when questions go beyond the just things that you've read on a website that you're repeating back to an interviewer, you're then able to get more information, dig deeper, and it's sort of reflective of an intellectual curiosity that every firm is going to respond to. Everybody wants to answer a question about their own personal experience. Just as an example, you can read whether a firm has a summer rotation program that is rotational or whether it's more of a free market system. What an interviewer wants to hear is A, that you know that, and B, how has that impacted your career, or what do you see as the pros and cons of that over the course of the summer associate program. That shows both the thought and the advanced thinking that people really want to see during an interview. In terms of questions that are dangerous to ask over the course of the interview, I think you have to be very careful and empathetic to this notion of the interviewer is looking to bring you on as an apprentice. So sometimes an innocuous question about firm management or past business decisions, the notion is, hey, I'm asking you to join this team as a junior member. I'm not asking you to reorganize or buy or merge with your firm. So you just have to be careful and be empathetic to what the interviewer is hearing, in the same spirit as you wouldn't necessarily ask about vacation policies and time off, particularly at this screening stage. Sometimes students get eager in their ability in their desire to show off the fact that they know a lot about the firm, to bring up things that are controversial, and sometimes they may show their ignorance of the complexities of things. So my advice would be, if you are able to ask a question, say about a semi-taboo subject like pro bono or hours or things like that, you can couch it in a way that is personal to the interviewer's experience or in the interviewer's opinion, given their time at the firm, how they would necessarily respond to those types of issues.